Welcome to Earth Life Sessions. I am Nuno Miguel Negroes Soares, and today I'm going to talk about jaguars, Amazon, and people. I hope you didn't get scared. I would like to thank Lizzie for this initiative and for inviting me here to participate. And also, I would like to thank you for watching me. Uh, did you know that the jaguar name means the beast that hunts with one jump? That's why I did. So I'm going to talk about jaguars, but first let me talk a little bit about me. I want to first give you a warning that I'm not a native English speaking person, so my English is not so good. So forgive me for that. So I am a researcher. I work at Aveiro University in Portugal, and also I am associated research with ASEA Conservación Amazónica, which is a Bolivian NGO. I am interested in wildlife since I was a kid. I think that everybody that works in wildlife in general or conservation grow up with watching National Geographic or BBC documentaries. So I was, as any kid, inspired by that. So I started studying biology, major. Then for a couple of years, I was a biology teacher on elementary and secondary school. And then I worked on a national park, came back to university and did some masters and did a PhD. So you can say that I am lucky enough to have experienced different sides of conservation, from research, education, management, and even implementing some conservation actions. And during all this experience that I have, there's always been a common topic. I always was attracted by human and wildlife conflicts, species that have conflicts with people. And mainly because I was attracted to find solutions to these conflicts. So I'm considering myself lucky. I was never a guy who planned my career. I never thought I want to work with that species or this species or in this part of the world. Everything happened was pure luck, and only the desire of being someplace where I can really contribute somehow. Oh, get out of here. Okay. Because human wildlife conflicts are a very important issue because they are a threat to many of the endangered species. That we'll talk about lions or tigers or jaguars or wolves. The conflict with people is one of the main threats, and that's one of the reasons why they are endangered. So how did I end up in the Amazon? I was working in Portugal in a national park, and a good friend of mine said, I just came from Brazil. There's an interesting field station, and they are doing some very interesting conservation. Maybe you can help and collaborate with them. So I contacted them. They were in the middle of Brazil, more or less like literally in the middle of Brazil. Hope you can see. Instituto Ecológico de Palmas, and I contacted them and I said, I want to contribute, I want to help. I said, no, you can come for 3 or 4 months. We have a very interesting project in turtle conservation, Amazon turtle conservation, and you can help with us. Amazon turtles are not as big as sea turtles, but they are really, some of them are really big. So on that year, July, I was arriving in Brazil for the first time, and the first time they arrived in the Amazon. One thing led to another, and some years later, I was doing my PhD on jaguar ecology and jaguar conservation in the Arc of Deforestation in Brazil. The Arc of Deforestation is this area where the agriculture is invading or pushing the tropical forest. So let me talk a little bit about the Amazon. Everybody knows the Amazon, I think. And when we talk about Amazon, the first thing that pops into our minds is they are the lungs of the planet. And I want to give you a more precise fact on that. Actually, only 25% of the oxygen comes from forests and trees all over the world. 75% of the oxygen comes from the oceans, from the algae and microorganisms that are photosynthetic, that produce oxygen. So although you can say the Amazon is not the lungs of the planet, you can say it's a part of the lungs, and so is also important. But there are other reasons why the Amazon is very important, and I will talk a little bit about that. One of the main reasons why the Amazon is very important is because it shelters a huge amount of biodiversity. 30% of the Amazon, of the biodiversity, forgive me, 30% of the biodiversity that exists in the planet exists in the Amazon. That's 30% of the animals and plants and other organisms in a very small amount of land, relatively small, 4%. And each day, scientists do new species, find new species, and so these numbers rise and rise and rise and rise. The second reason why the Amazon is important is it contributes to climate regulation. You know, Amazon River and its tributaries have 20% of the flowing fresh water. So there's they take to the sea, and also the trees have evapotranspiration. So there is an exchange between the trees and the atmosphere, and between the rivers and the ocean, exchange of water and exchange of energy. And this is very, very, very important for climate and also for ocean currents that is also interconnected. The third reason why the Amazon is important is connected to two of the first two. One, because trees, there's a lot of trees, and we know that climate change is caused a lot because of deforestation, because we cut the forest, and all the carbon that is accumulated in the forest gets released, let's say, like that. So imagine if the Amazon has so many trees, if you cut all the trees of the Amazon, the amount of carbon that will be released will be causing severe consequences. So I say Amazon is a bank of carbon. The third reason why the Amazon is very, very important is because it shelters a lot of people. More than 30 million people live in the Amazon. That's 80% of the South American population. And a lot of these people are indigenous. More than 6 million indigenous people live there, with their culture, with their language, more than 300 languages, with their history. So the richness of the Amazon is not only in terms of biodiversity, it's also a cultural and historical richness that we need to preserve. And how is the life of these people that live in the middle of the Amazon? No, they really live in very remote areas. For you to have an idea, from our base in La Paz in Bolivia to reach a community in the middle of the Bolivian Amazon, we took 1 hour flight from La Paz, 4 to 6 hours with a car, in a 4x4, then 6 and 14 hours by boat to reach one of the remote communities. They really live in the middle of nowhere. So as you can imagine, they don't have hospitals, they don't have supermarkets, they don't have cinemas. Whatever they need, they have to take from natural resources, from the forest, from the rivers, whatever nature gives them. So They hunt and fish, they need food. They also have some agriculture for like rice, bananas, and other fruits for self consumption. They also sometimes eat a lot of fruits from the forest, like the Brazil nut, like the acai, and sometimes also they cut some woods. They need to build their houses and so on. And they live side by side with animals like the jaguars, like the anacondas, the caimans, the tapirs, the peccaries. So their interaction with wildlife must be very different than our interaction with this wildlife that we only know from far distance away. Let me tell you a story. One day we were in one of these communities, and it was Mother's Day in Bolivia. So the kids were dancing, playing dances, theaters, singing to pay tribute to the mothers. And one of these dances, all the kids were dressed in traditional costumes. And the one kid in particular was dressed like a jaguar, with a jaguar pelt and painted with jaguars whiskers. And they later explained me that this dance was about a jaguar that got close to the community, and of course people got scared and they chased the jaguar away. When I saw this dance and they explained me with more detail what happened, I thought, we have a conflict, we have a problem with jaguars. So that's something that really interests me. So we did start some research. We interview a lot of the adults, we interview a lot of the kids, and we want to know what are the underlying causes for this conflict. Why do people dislike jaguars? Or what was the causes of the conflict? And we came to two main reasons why people in the Amazon don't like jaguars or dislike sometimes jaguars. One of the reasons is because jaguars, they feel fear that the jaguar can attack himself or herself or someone of his family or her family. Another reason is because they fear that the jaguar can attack their domestic animals, like the pigs, the chickens, and sometimes the jaguar does attack another wildlife attacks. That's the burdens of living along some wildlife. So these two were the main reasons. And fear seemed to be a powerful driven, and we can really we cannot blame them for feeling sometimes fear of living with the jaguars. I had an experience that opened my eyes to what means being afraid of a jaguar, and I'm gonna share with you. I'm gonna role play here. So I hope you can hear me. I'm gonna move away. So we captured a jaguar. A jaguar was in a cage, and we were moving the jaguar to one place to another. So me and my colleagues, we were carrying the cage. I was one side, another colleague on the other side, and two behind, each one on the corners of the cage, carrying the jaguar. So we're very heavy with the cage and the jaguar inside. We're walking the forest, carrying the jaguar, and suddenly I hear the cage drop behind me, and everybody's running away. Everybody's running away, crying, jaguar, jaguar. When I look behind me, I saw the jaguar, the cage floor has broken down, and the jaguar is halfway out, halfway in. And I quickly start to thinking, can I make this jaguar go inside the cage again? I can't. So what I did is I start running like hell, really far away. Also, when I arrived to the car, which is close by, everybody was inside, locked in, and I was outside the car. I said, thank you very much, my friends. This experience, now that I look far away, is funny, but in that moment, I felt fear. I am a researcher. We've been working for jaguars a long time. I know that jaguars very, very rarely attack a person, usually for defense. That's what the main cause of a jaguar attack. So I knew that the jaguar, or intellectually, I knew that the jaguar in that situation probably will run. Jaguar will run one way and I run another way, another direction. And that's actually what happened. But nevertheless, I felt feared. I also felt fear. And that made me think about these persons who live inside the forest, close to the jaguars, who sometimes walking in the middle of the forest during the night, they encounter a jaguar. So it's normal they feel fear. And I don't judge them. I think it's perfectly understandable that that happens. Wouldn't you be afraid if you're walking in the middle of the forest and suddenly a jaguar hops by? I think both of them will be afraid. You and the jaguar, me and the jaguar. Everybody will be afraid. Even Captain America will be afraid. Captain Marvel will be afraid. Everybody will be afraid. So it's very easy sometimes for us to say to a person that lives in the middle of the Amazon or in the middle of the Africa savannah, how they should how their relationship with wildlife should be, what should they do or not do. And I understand that conservation of this species is very important, but you have to understand that only the people that live next to wildlife really know what represents for them. What does they charge? They have the good and the bad, and they are the only ones who bear the consequences. And we need to understand that for thinking about conservation. We also need to understand that there are basic needs everywhere. Everybody needs food, everybody needs shelter, everybody needs medicine, needs to feel safe. So there is no way of doing conservation when people have empty stomachs or are sick or don't feel safe. So people that live in the Amazon have the expectations of these basic needs to be fulfilled also. My view of conservation has changed due to this experience. And I think that we need to be more empathic with the people that live along this wildlife that we want to protect. So to have proper conservation, to actually do conservation in the Amazon, or I think everywhere in the world, is not, you need to consider not only the biodiversity, but also work to improve the lives and livelihoods of the people that live next to them. This is all I wanted to talk about, to share with you these stories about jaguar people and the Amazon. If you want to know more information about what we do, there's this Facebook pages of university and also Acea Conservação Amazônica and my Twitter account, sorry. And don't forget, tune tomorrow for another life lessons. And I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any question, please, I'm here. Thank you very much and be safe.